Derrick Henry. He had 2,000 rushing yards. He rushed for that against the Texans in a very close game, which if they would have lost, they would have been a wild card. I mean, they would have still played in the wild card, but they wouldn't have won the division. And there's just one simple question. Is he the most dominant running back that you've ever seen? Either one can answer first.
I say no, but I say no because of the simple fact that I've seen Adrian Peterson play, and I feel like he was the most dominant running back I ever seen. I mean, talk about in his comeback year when he won MVP and had to literally carry that Vikings team to the playoffs. But if I had to put it in order, I would say Adrian Peterson first and Derrick Henry second, because he's just the way he impacts the game and just dominates off the run is ridiculous. He's literally like 6'3", like he's literally like LeBron James running the ball, and it's ridiculous. And another guy I would talk about too is Chris Johnson. He was also another guy who had 2K for the Titans. So shout out to the Titans for having 2K running back. But I would probably put Derrick Henry as number 2, being the second most dominant running back I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I want to preface this by saying I'm only 21 years old, so obviously I didn't have the luxury of watching live some of the best running backs ever to play, and that's a whole different discussion that we could get into. But just speaking on guys that I've seen in my lifetime, and I was able to watch them live, you know, watching them play, not just watching a highlight tape.
Who'd you watch live?
I would have Derrick Henry in my top 3. And the top 3 guys I would say.
So he's third in your list.
Just speaking pure dominance and not speaking on skill set, because obviously when you get into like pass catching, I think there's better, or I shouldn't say better, more well-rounded running backs in the league right now.
They're better pass catchers, yeah.
Yeah, but
when you speak on pure dominance and impact on an offense, I think there's only 3 guys or 2 guys, including him, that are in a category that he is right now, and that's Adrian Peterson and LaDainian Tomlinson. And I only got to see the tail end of LaDainian Tomlinson, but when you look at what he did this year, he's the first running back to win back-to-back rushing titles since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006-2007. So that's more than a decade ago, almost a decade and a half ago since the last time that happened. Adrian Peterson never did it, and he's going to be one of the greatest running backs of all time. So that's an incredible accomplishment. He's the first running back ever to rush for 200 yards against the same opponent in back-to-back meetings. And that's an incredibly difficult thing to do, because you do it once, it's a great game, but the team gets to go back, game plan for you. They have the tape, they put a game plan together, and then to come out and do the same exact thing to the same team a second time, it just goes to show. It's like, you know, I talk about it in basketball sometimes. You can know where the ball's going, but you got to stop it. And he is just an unstoppable force sometimes. This year, he had 1,479 yards after contact, which is more yards than total yards of anybody in the NFL not named Dalvin Cook. So it just goes to show you how incredible of an athlete he is, how incredible of a runner he is. And in the NFL right now, there's only 2 teams that run the ball more. It's the Patriots, who were not a good team this year, and the Ravens, who have multiple different ways of attacking you with the run. The Titans use Derrick Henry to build their offense around. Like, he is the focal point of that offense, and he opens up the road for Tannehill to have such a great season, and A.J. Brown and Corey Davis to have such great seasons. So without him, I don't think this team would be half of what it is, and I just think that speaks to his dominance.
Your head nodding just be killing me.
He is the most dominant running back that I've ever seen. And what you said earlier, that's exactly what I'm going to say. I'm 21 years old, so the best running backs that I've seen, the best running back seasons have been Chris Johnson. Even though it was 2009, 10 years ago, I was 11, 10. So I wasn't really watching football in the terms of studying the game. Adrian Peterson was another one that was a dominant running back season. And people forget about DeMarco Murray with Dallas. That was another one. And he actually had 1,000 yards with the Titans as well. And Derrick Henry played alongside DeMarco in, I believe, 2016. He's the most dominant running back that I've ever seen. When you look at what he's done these last 3 years, since 2018, he's had 1,000 yards rushing each year. In 2018, he had 1,000 yards. In 2019, he had 1,500. In 2020, he has 2,000. Is he going to have 2,500 next year? It seems like he's going past 500 each season. And even when DeMarco Murray was there in 2016, DeMarco's first year, he was better than Henry. But in 2017, Derrick Henry only started 2 games, and he rushed for 744 yards. and only started 2 games. DeMarco Murray started the most of those games, but Derrick Henry was just so much better than him in that second year that he got most of the carries and he took advantage of them. But like you said, I think the running back that had like the most dominant year was probably Adrian Peterson, because I believe at the time his quarterback was who? Christian Ponder? I'm not sure.
Might have been Ponder,
I think it might have been Ponder the year that Adrian Peterson rushed for 2,000 yards. If you guys want, you could fact check me right now.
I think Sidney Rice was on the team at the time.
I don't even know. Like I
That team
think
was such a. They had a great O-line.
I think it was Teddy Bridgewater actually. Teddy Bridgewater.
You think Teddy was there?
Teddy was a starter that year. I'm pretty sure. I remember now. AP was 8 yards away from tying Eric Dickerson's record for most rushing yards in the season and 9 yards from breaking it. So AP, you know, if it wasn't for that story with his son, like beating his son with the branch, then he would have probably kept doing. He would have been more dominant. But I don't think I've seen a stretch as dominant as Derrick Henry's as he's been doing these past 3 seasons.
It was Christian Ponder.
It was he started that year.
I don't think Teddy was there yet.
His 2,000-yard season, right? Christian Ponder?
And Christian Ponder's numbers were terrible.
Oh, he sucks. That's why I said Teddy wasn't there yet, I don't think. I think he came a little bit after.
I think because it was much easier to stop the Vikings running game because their quarterback sucks. I think it's much harder to game plan for Tennessee.
I think the reason why I put AP as a more dominant runner is because with Derrick Henry, like both of them are very strong. But I think with Adrian Peterson, when he breaks through a run,
he's more elusive.
Yeah, he's more elusive in the sense where he'll juke you, he'll spin off you, he'll stiff arm you. Derrick Henry's kind of like a straightforward, I'm just gonna run you over type of guy. But I think, well, like you said too, with the quarterback, Ryan Tannehill was much better than Christian Pond. AJ Brown was probably better than every receiver they had on that team. So the offense is better suited for Derrick Henry to dominate because they could also pass the ball. With the Vikings, you knew what they were going to do. They had a great O-line, but you knew what they were going to do. They were going to run the ball all day, all game. And I think with the fact that Adrian Peterson won the MVP too, and he came off an ACL injury, was like, wow.
He won comeback player of the year that year too.
Like, it was just like, wow. We didn't expect him to do that. Like you said, if it wasn't for him beating his son and all the injuries he had, he would have still been dominant. But yeah, those two would definitely be my guy. Danny was a good one too, but I've seen like later.
Yeah, we only got to see the tail end of his career, but you know, I just think when you speak about Derrick Henry, it's so incredible because he's not, like I said, the most versatile guy in the league. He's not much of a speed back. You pretty much know he's gonna be a bowling ball running back.
This might be a bold take,
but I think that's what makes him.
He's kind of like
exactly, and
kind of like Giannis in my. I think like in terms of the league, just straight dominance, like a Giannis Shaq guy. Like you know what he's gonna do. He's just gonna dominate the one area that he's gonna. Look,
I'll say this: in the regular season, I think AP has an edge over in terms of the best rushing yard season. I think that I've seen. I think AP has that edge. But if you look like around the entire body of work, Derrick Henry in the playoffs is phenomenal. He's the only player ever to have 170 yards back-to-back rushing in NFL history for a running back. So if we're taking into account regular season and what he's done in the playoffs so far, I think it's Derrick Henry.
And he did that last year against great defenses too. You know,
against Baltimore.
Yeah, in the playoffs where you know you're getting every team's best shot. It's not the regular season where you could have a fluke week and it really means nothing. You know teams are putting out their best game plan, throwing the kitchen sink at you, and he still had incredible games, carried that team to the AFC Championship where they lost to maybe one of the best teams I think that we've seen in our lifetime. You know, that was an insurmountable opponent, I feel like. So the fact that he got them there with as dominant as he was in the postseason just speaks towards, like, it's hard to imagine that he's able to do the things he does when you know what he's going to do, I feel like. But
their blocking
no
is
one
really
can
good.
stop it. No one can stop it. And it's so impressive.
I have a question. Speaking on the Derrick Henry situation, so football is a little different with the basketball. You guys go every season, you change your list up. You don't go by totality. You go whoever's the best receiver this year, that's going to be the best receiver. So this year, you would declare Derrick Henry the best running back in the league?
Yeah, by far.
Yeah, I think he is.
So over the past three, because I know CMC, he's missed a lot of time. Dalvin Cook has been performing. Over the last 3 seasons, would you put Derrick Henry as still number 1?
Yes, over the past 2 seasons, he's definitely number 1. The reason why I'm kind of hesitant about saying CMC is because Mike Davis came in there and pretty much produced to the level, not as well, but he produced at a really high level to the point that he was a every week fantasy starter for me, Mike Davis. Like, I knew he was going to produce.
Yeah.
So, he went in and filled CMC's role. CMC would have been better, of course, but he still played phenomenally well. I don't think somebody could come in and fill Derrick Henry's role and play as well as he's played.
One thing that I was thinking about this before, I feel like I can say one thing about him that I don't think I can say about any other running back in the league. I think he's irreplaceable. Like, I don't think you could put any running back in his shoes and they would have as good of a season. You know
2000, yeah, maybe no.
Like you talk about Mike Davis just stepped into Christian McCaffrey's shoes, and while he didn't reach that same number that you would get out of Christian McCaffrey, he still had a great season. Like, he was one of the top running backs in the league this past year, statistics wise. Saquon Barkley, in his absence, the Giants had some great rushing games out of Wayne Gallman. I just feel like there are so many offenses where a running back can step in and play great. The Ravens, you could throw any running back in that system, they would play great.
And I think that's what's so special about this season, because there isn't many 2K rushers that you can just replace, like the Adrian Petersons, the Chris Johnsons.
Yeah.
Like, even Derrick Henry. There isn't many guys you could just throw in their spot and say, all right, replicate this, because it's going to be difficult. I
think that Derrick Henry is an irreplaceable running back. I think he's the only irreplaceable running back in the league right now. And that's
Dalvin Cook.
Even Dalvin Cook, though.
But I think, but wouldn't you be able to trade? You can put Derrick Henry in Dalvin Cook's situation, and he would do the same.
I don't know. Their offensive line is really bad. I think Derrick Henry, what makes him so special is that their blocking is really good. So once he gets to that second level, he can break those tackles. But, what if his offensive line was really bad? Is he elusive enough to get to that second level? I'm not sure. I think he's still I think, especially for the running back position, it's a team effort. It's not like one guy carries, but Dalvin Cook in this situation, he's really been carrying that offensive line. Like, it's been playing better, but, he's really been doing his thing. That's why I think he's irreplaceable. Like, Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook, I think, are both irreplaceable to me.
And one other thing I wanted to mention about Henry is how sneakily athletic he is. Because he's so big, you don't really think about him as like a burner. But when you see him break free and he gets into space, like, he has a crazy stiff arm, but he will outrun like defensive backs, and that's insane for a guy of his size.
He's huge.
I always say about guys like him, like, there is no way somebody should be that large of a human being and be able to run as fast as he does.
It's him, bro. It's him, bro.
Bro, I just be thinking about so much stuff.
What the hell?
When you guys talk, like, I'm thinking about so much different stuff while you guys are talking. Like, I'm thinking about my reactions. Like, when Jack is talking, once you mention the head nodding, now when I start to head nod, I'm thinking about my head nodding, and then I start to laugh.
And what doesn't help is the viewers at home can't see this, but there is a monitor right across from us right there. And me and Riv can't really see it because we look at you, but you have to look at us, and in your peripheral vision is the monitor. So I'm sure that now that he said that, you're catching out, even if you don't realize it, you're catching it out of the side of your eye, the monitor.
And his head nod is because you don't know if he's agreeing with you or not. He's just...
I see it too. When I have any
I'm just listening.
I see him nodding his head, and I'm like, is he about to agree?
Yeah,
or
that's
is
what
he
I'm saying.
about
Like,
to
it's
try
one
and
time
totally
when we were
eviscerate?
talking about something, and he did the head nod repeatedly, so I'm thinking he's about to agree with you, and he was like, well, I disagree with you, Jack. And I was just like, what?
Nah, because the thing is that, like, it's just weird because that's how I showcase that I'm listening. Like, I'm listening. I'm like, I think it's even weirder if I just look at you straight on.
Yeah.
And I just go like this the whole time. Because now you feel like I'm mad at you.
Uncomfortable.
So, and it's weird because since I sit here, when you guys are giving your takes, Jack is constantly looking at me. He's not looking at you the entire time. He's looking at me. So now if I feel like I look away at you, I'm ignoring what he's saying. So I sit in the weirdest position, and that's why I start to laugh. Because, like, I'm really catching everything in real time.
Yeah, nah, for real.
But yeah, we went on about Derrick Henry and what, Derrick Henry, he's sneaky athletic and he's a large human being. That's what we're talking about.
It's crazy. It's like guys like him, DK Metcalf, Chase Young.
Specimens.
Like, it's unbelievable how they move so fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I feel like every time he breaks off a run, I find myself, like, how is that even possible?